My name is John Evans, and this is a very special event today here for the California Historical Radio Society. I'm going to bring up one of our lead people at CHRS, Steve Cushman, who wants to tell you about some of the programs that we're doing at the museum. If you haven't been to Alameda to see the Bay Area Radio Museum and Hall of Fame, it's really worth the trip. First of all, we're in the middle of a big remodeling project. This building dates back to 1900. Yeah, it was originally a telephone exchange for the island, and then it became a bank and a school, and now it's our museum. But we've torn off the facade, and we are going to restore the old original facade of the building. And it's a big project. Rachel Lee got some money from the city of Alameda to help us put this all together. But Steve will tell you more about it, and then we'll get our program started. So here's Steve Cushman.
Hi, everyone. I won't be long because I know there's a lot of big program to get to. Simply, I just want to let you know that things are going great over at the California Historical Radio Society. In addition to restoring the facade of our building, which has been 10 years in the making now, and everybody is very happy that we're going back to what the building looked like, its Mission Revival style in 1900. So, and it fits very well into the neighborhood, and for years it had a flat front with cinder blocks. So it's all gone, and the columns are back, and the building is going to look really good. This is just a big invitation for Radio Day by the Bay. It is our biggest event of the year, July 20th. Put it all on your calendars. Our hosts for that day will be Terry McGovern and Kim Wonderly. We will have Ben Fong Torres there, who will be announcing the Barhoff people for this the induction for this year's Hall of Fame. We will have the Royal Society Jazz Orchestra. We will have Channel 7's Dan Ashley also playing some music for us. And we will have a radio play, Our Miss Brooks, and we will feature the Radio Dog Theater. And by goodness, we have a couple of our actors here. We have Sam Van Zant, who's going to be in our radio play. Alisa Clancy. We have a new member, Diane Nicolini, is going to be in our radio play. Jack Culp is here somewhere. He's going to be in our radio play. And I think that's all here today. And then we'll be Hoyt's going to be support this time. We can help you, Hoyt. See me after and bring you cash. Yeah. So that's going to be a big day for us. It's our 50th anniversary of CHRS. We're going to have lots of things going on. Other radio stations will be there. The Pinball Museum is going to be there with pinballs. The KFRC Sturgeon is going to be there. We'll have food trucks. We'll have a sale. We'll have all kinds of stuff going on. July 20th, Radio Day by the Bay. And part of this project is we are putting in bricks in front of the building that could have your name on it that will last forever in the front of Radio Central. So buy a brick and live forever at Radio Central. I don't want to take up more time. Enjoy, everybody. Bye-bye.
Something else significant about Radio Day by the Bay, that is the day that we are going to be announcing this year's class, the induction to our Radio Hall of Fame. And voting is underway for that right now. It started on May 1st and will continue until the end of June, 11:59 p.m. on June 30th. So you have to be a member of the Hall of Fame in order to vote, or you can also become a member of CHRS, and it's really easy to do. You just log on to CaliforniaHistoricalRadio.com, go to the scroll to the bottom of the home page, and become a member for $40, and then you too can vote. And the reason why that's important today is because Rick Malone is on the ballot. And this is just me, and I have no horses in this race, but Rick is my guy. So, same to you, my friend. Okay, let's get our program started. This is really special for me. I spent 8 years at Kdfc. It was a really great time for me. I was there from 2001 to 2009. And I think we were telling the story earlier. Where's Bill? There he is. Bill was an on-air program director back then, and the next thing you know, I'm doing his shift. And then Hoyt and I switched shifts, so then I became the afternoon host. And I had a really great time at Kdfc. It was family to me, still is family to me. A lot of you are here today. This is like a class reunion, right? Yeah? All right, Deb's here. Nice to see you, Deb. So we want to get the program started, and Diane and I were having a conversation about this earlier. As far as I'm concerned, Diane is Kdfc. 30 years, I believe, you've been there already, maybe longer. She's been playing classical music in this city for 40 years or whatever it's been. So she is, I used the word matriarch earlier in my script, but I don't know, that's a little too fussy. So I just call her my spiritual guru, and I would like you all to give it up for Diane Nicolini.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, those years when I was the peanut butter and jelly in a sandwich that started with Hoyt and ended with John, they were great, great years. Before we go to the video, I just want to say that back in those days and when I started all those years ago, I was often the only woman on the air for any given station. Today, I'm happy to tell you, Kdfc has an all-chick lineup. I'd like to point out, is Maggie still here? She wasn't sure she was going to stick around, but our morning woman, Maggie Clennon-Reberg, and Robin Pressman bringing up the afternoon, and Laura Downs in the evening. So it's great. We are gender blind at this point, and that's awesome. So Bill has worked very hard, and other folks too, on a video that no one's seen, right? It's super secret, and I can't wait. I've been dying to see this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kdfc.
The story of this radio legend begins like many California stories with a vision to head west. 3 friends from the Garden State of New Jersey decided to plant new roots on the hills above Sausalito using a new technology invented only years earlier in their home state. Frequency modulation, or FM, was formally established in 1941 by the U.S. government, and from Mount Beacon, Davis, Florence, and Crocker launched their new FM radio station in 1948 with the call letter acronym of their names, Kdfc, on 102.1 FM. At the time, there were only around 100 TV stations in America and 450 FMs. Bill Crocker was the GM of the original station, Herb Florence, the chief engineer, and Ed Davis began as the sales manager. Watching the ship sail through the Golden Gate, Kdfc hosts in the studio, co-located at the transmitter site, would make the announcements and the engineers would play the records. In 1950, the owners acquired the 1220 AM frequency in Palo Alto and simulcast the FM programming until the AM was sold off in the 1990s. As technology became more sophisticated, Kdfc adopted a streamlined approach to programming. The music would be recorded on large reels with 1 hour of music programming on each and a recorded music host. All the commercials would be recorded onto small reel-to-reel tapes. College students were often hired to run these tapes from the transmitter/studio site, and they could study for classes while the music played. They also had to be careful to check for rattlesnakes when they left the building after their shift.
So my shift from 6 to midnight, I would then idle the transmitter, because we were a daytimer then, finish the logs, turn out the lights, and then you would open the front door at the transmitter shack and take this leap out across the front doormat. because there was a bunch of snakes always curled up there. Because the only warmth on Wolfback Ridge came from the light over our control room door, up on that windy, foggy site. And you'd pull the door behind you, and if you forgot something, you just come back tomorrow to when the snakes have left.
When the station moved its studios to Van Ness Avenue in the 1980s, only several blocks from the current station location, it took advantage of another technological advancement, digital audio tapes, or DATs. A wall of tape decks was mounted and preloaded with hours of programming in some machines and commercials in others.
During my time there, we made a couple of interesting improvements. One was 24-hour operation. When I started, KDFC signed off the air from midnight to 6 a.m. And the AM was a daytime-only station. The FM on 24 hours a day, we either had to staff it, which we kind of were unwilling to do at that time and felt it unnecessary because of the automated nature of the station. So I converted the automation system from a proprietary to a PC-based system. And that enabled us to remote control it from the most obvious place was my house.
After a couple of quick ownership changes in the 90s, Bonneville bought KDFC FM in 1997. Bay Area Radio Hall of Famer Chuck Tweedle was in charge, along with Valerie Howard.
We have a vibrant arts community here, always have, and they would support the station. But frankly, we were fishing in deeper waters for the more casual listener. I'm very happy to say that it was not only viable, it was profitable beyond our expectations. And it's all due to a fabulous group of people that work there and still work here.
I was then hired to be the morning show host and soon after the program director. Fellow Hall of Famer Diane Nicolini took over the middays and has been here ever since. The company supported a new vision for a mainstream approach to presenting and programming the music. Current music supervisor Rick Malone handled the afternoons before moving to nights, and soon after, Hall of Famer Hoyt Smith came in to do the afternoons.
The deal was that Bill had sought me out some months before I was actually hired and said, hey, I think you'd be great on the station. I was working across town at a jazz station. He knew me and we'd kind of bumped into each other here and there. And I said, well, I've got my own parking space. They seem to love me. I was fired about 3 months later. And then I called up Bill and said, my dance card happens to be wide open. So he said, come on down, we'll talk about it. Bill's has just made this amazing family here, and we all get along really well. I don't ever recall any harsh words or any bad energy, drama. It's just everything, it's just been a great gang of people to work with. And that's really what I miss. I kind of miss working in this palace that they built here on Van Ness Avenue.
KDFC achieved an unprecedented feat for the format. It tied for the top-rated music station in the fall of 1999 and again in 2000, and maintained strong ratings for more than a decade with great music, personalities, and marketing. Hall of Famer John Evans joined a few years later, and by this time the station was doing rock station-inspired on-air promotions like Classical A to Z. The station also created new events like Classical Star Search with celebrity judges, the Star-Spangled Sing-Off to vote for who could sing the anthem at Opera at the Ballpark. Classical Kids Discovery Days would welcome thousands of families to a day of music engagement, and we still do this today. In 2011, Entercom decided there was more money in playing classic rock on 102.1, so that January, they flipped the switch with the song Roll Over Beethoven, and KDFC was gone.
I saw that KDFC was vulnerable. The classical format was vulnerable. So I started talking internally at the University of Southern California to save classical music in the Bay Area. One of the things we were concerned about in the beginning is that people in the Bay Area may be a little bit nervous or not entirely happy about having the University of Southern California come in and run the station. However, that was really completely misfounded. We were absolutely welcomed with open arms, and people said to us, "We're just so happy you saved our station."
The core team stayed on to convert KDFC into a listener-supported nonprofit with guidance from our new sister station, KUSC, in LA. And immediately, donations started coming in.
The biggest difference for me was not having to take commercial breaks and to say, we'll be back after these 4-minute-long commercials, 4 minutes of commercials. And so the product, the sound of the station was just nicer, better. The mood that the music created, we could maintain that.
Now KDFC has 25,000 supporting members in Northern California and around the world. It continues to broadcast San Francisco Symphony concerts, along with performances of other local groups. It partners with San Francisco Opera on various activities, including a monthly radio show.
As I think about the role that KDFC plays in this broader ecosystem of the arts in the Bay Area, it is very much that of welcoming people, not just into the radio station, into classical music, but into the whole cultural fabric of the Bay Area.
Coming out of COVID, KDFC created a special new partnership with the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and the offices and studios are now on the second floor of the Bose Center in the heart of the San Francisco Arts District. The station has the use of the stunning performance spaces in the building and enjoys a budding relationship with conservatory students. In its 75 years, KDFC has won many awards, including the NAB Marconi 3 times, plus the NAB Crystal Award for Community Service. It is the community service that now drives our mission for Northern California. It's about people, the music lovers who share our belief that classical music is for everyone, and that through KDFC, we can help make our world a more harmonious place.
Well, that was awesome, although a little bit like seeing your life flash before your eyes. That was unbelievable. It's beyond a great pleasure. It's just, I can't tell you how much it means to see Rick with us today. Here he comes. He is the music supervisor of Classical California, both KDFC and KUSC, and my buddy together, as the video informed us, arriving just about the same time as me. Are we talking 30 years, Rick? Okay, come on up. Ladies and gentlemen, Rick Malone.
Thanks, Diane. Do you all remember, way back in the day, the ads that used to show up in the backs of magazines or comic books that said, "They laughed when I sat down at the piano"? Do you remember those? Obviously, the guy in the ad, and it was almost always a guy for some reason, would end up sitting down at the piano and amazing his friends because he had learned how to play through this correspondence course, whatever. The point being that they laughed when we said we could take a traditional classical radio station, a radio station that was best known for the disembodied voice of God that would come on after every piece of music and going, 1732. That we could take that station and not only make it relevant to a modern audience, but we could make it a success. And lo and behold, we did. And that was because we had an amazing team of people who were not only really talented both on and off the air, but were passionate about what we were doing. They believed in what we were doing. And as Diane said, we all got along. It was a great team. It was an amazing team, and still is. I mean, some of us are still at it today, which is really pretty amazing as well. So anyway, thank you so much to the Society for choosing us as the legendary station of the year this year. That's pretty cool. Thank you all for listening throughout the years, and thank you for supporting us in our new public radio incarnation at a time when public media is under attack around a lot of the country and a lot of public stations are in crisis. We really, really appreciate your support. So again, thank you so very much. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce somebody that I, again, really, really enjoyed working with. He was the guy who was tasked with making us sound like a real radio station, even when people didn't think we were or should sound like that. He's a production director and production person extraordinaire, Jay Stein.
Well, hi, everybody. Yeah, so they were talking about bringing a rock and roll kind of vibe to classical music, and that's where I came in 1998. It was January 5th, 1998, because I got married on February 20th of 1998, so it was quite a time for me, and it's so true. It was an amazing experience. I'd never worked with people as passionate, as dedicated, and as smart as the KDFC people were. And this team was amazing. I mean, and there's a couple people that I want to mention that aren't here today that made it real special. And one of them was Len Matson. You know, he was a sales guy that kind of made the transition to that new, and really was responsible, I think, for bringing that station into fruition financially. You know, we used to joke that he knows where all the bodies are buried because he buried half of them himself. But he was a guy that, like, on a Thursday, he'd go, "We need $5,000 to make budget." And there'd go Len, and he'd come back with a check. And it was amazing. And he taught me a lot, actually. We butted heads quite a bit. And so he taught me to be a better production guy in the long run. And so I owe a lot to Len. I just want to mention him because he was KDFC as well, to me as well. And another guy is Val Robichaud, and he was responsible for a lot of those promotions that we did. The classical Survivor, where we'd strand composers on a desert island, and then listeners would vote them off the island. Those kinds of things. And the highlight of my week was the meeting with Val and Bill and myself in Bill's office, and we'd come up with this stuff. And every week we're trying to come up with a new way to touch people and show them that classical music isn't a scary, crazy thing, you know? And so it's just amazing, the stuff that came out of Bill and Val's mind. And then I had the great pleasure of putting that on the air. So I was there for 9 years, and it's really the highlight of my career. So thanks for having me today, and I really appreciate all of you. Thanks.
Your Monday ride home and Hoyt Smith with a lot of great classical music still to enjoy with you. This is Bach. Sorry, hairball. Here's a highlight from Mnemosyne, the upcoming ECM release and the weirdest piece of shit you'll ever hear, from Jan Garbarek and the Hilliard Ensemble. And this is take one of what promises to be so many, many takes. The Bay Area's acclaimed American Bach soloist, 10th Gala... Okay. Hey, we're having fun, aren't we? Okay, let's take two. The Bay Area's acclaimed American Bach soloist, 10th Bay. Okay, I can do it now. I really can.
And now a special presentation, live from the Metropolitan Opera on Classical 102.1 KDFC.
This is Saturday. It is after 10:30. I got up special for to listen to the opera. What happened? I don't know.
I got told that you can identify songs if they just get hammered out for you, so here we go. The melody is...
What is this, take 20? Sure, why not? The Bay Area's acclaimed American Bach soloist, 10th Hey! Yeah. Can't get through that one, can we?
Let us know what you think. Drop us a line. Or log on to kdfc.com right now.
Bach's dazzling Brandenburg Concertos 1 and 2 and Cantatas 1 and 70 will be performed this Well, that didn't bite too bad, but I think it's time to do another one.
For 60 years I've been listening. Maybe not all the time. So, what can I say? Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and good luck on Valentine's Day. I love you guys anyway. Bye-bye.
Well, there was a learning curve. My voice, I think I left back at the station. It's not always very reliable, but I'll get through this as best I can. So I was just going to talk about one of the incidents that happened in my tenure at KDFC. I wake up in the morning sounding like Barry White. About now I'm Don Knotts, and at the end of the day I sound like Marge Simpson, so bear with me. Just thinking of the naughty oddies back when I first was really getting into KDFC and finding my way through all of this. It was the time where we were kicking Baroque butt pretty nicely. Thanks to Len Matten, we were able to sell that station really well. This is in the time before the Personal People Meter destroyed our ratings in some ways. But we were still, we were still getting the job done and having a lot of fun with the morning show. It wasn't exactly Shecky Smith and the Sheckettes, but we had a good time, or the KDFC Morning Zoo. We did have a lot of regular features in the morning show, one of which was about 7:30 or so, the classical commuter quiz. We're just playing on commuter quiz. Ask a question, take caller number 10, da-da-da. So this one day, by the way, I had a gang in the studio with me. I had Dusty and Betsy O'Connor, Dusty Rhodes. So we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughter going on mic and off mic. And so we're taking the answer, caller number 10, and this guy says the answer is Tchaikovsky or whatever. And I said, great, you win a entire box set of box. No, I don't want that. I just wanted to show you that I knew the answer to the question. And so I hung up on him and I said, what a hole. Which made, pardon my French, which made the gals in the studio with me laugh, and I laughed, until I realized that my mic was hot. Oh yeah, oh yeah. So it got real quiet and a lot less jovial real fast. And I waited and I waited and I looked at the phone and nothing, and I waited and I just kept on with the show. A day or two later, I got an email from a woman who said, I am very, very disappointed in you. And I just sort of sucked it up and I wrote back to her and I said, you know what, sometimes I'm just not a nice person. I'm sorry. And that was the end of that. Okay, more than sometimes. No, I'm kidding. Some months later, we had an event at, I don't know where it was, maybe the Palace of Fine Arts or something. And this very attractive young couple came scurrying up to me in line. And they said, oh, we're just so glad to meet you. We listen to you every morning. We didn't always listen to you, but there was that morning where you said that thing during the contest. And I said, yes, I remember it very well. Well, after that, we knew we had to listen every day because we didn't know what the heck you were going to say next. So there you go. It's some great times. That, yes, a very steep learning curve. Bill was of the opinion, and I think rightfully so, that you could teach someone to pronounce all those names. Thankfully, I had a curious nature, so I was able to find out a lot about the composers. And everyone was very patient with me as I navigated this, and the rest of the jocks who came over to play classical. Anyway, it's been a wonderful, wonderful time with KDFC, and we are so honored for this special day. Thank you very much.
This is familiar. When I come in after Hoyt, there's always an adjustment of the microphone. So now, something super fun for you. In the center of your tables, there's some swag bags, some gift bags, but only for those of you who are the winner of our contest. So check out the legs of your chairs. I know it sounds strange, but look for a KDFC logo, and if you're sitting in a chair with one of our logos, you get to take one of those bags home. So good luck to everybody. And oh, there we go. Congratulations. And now we would like for all of you to secure yourself some champagne because we have a special toast coming up. It's champagne time. Do we have glasses? I think a lot of you have your champagne glasses. You're ready to go. If anybody needs some champagne, please maybe raise a hand and we'll get our servers to help you out. And that comes a little later on. But now it's my pleasure to introduce someone who was there at the moment of our transition from commercial to public, and which was kind of a tricky thing to get through. But he was the market manager of not, of course, just KDFC, but all the Entercom stations in the Bay Area. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dwight Walker.
Well, this is really unfair because I think I'm the only guy who has never been on the air. You have to be compelling and entertaining to do that, so that was not my job. So when Bill called me about appearing here today, I immediately said, of course, but some of you may recall the opening line to Hamilton where Aaron Burr says, "I'm the damn fool who shot the man." Well, I'm the one that shot KDFC in some terms. I was charged with the mission of taking KDFC off that powerful signal at 102.1 and moving it to a non-commercial station. So when Entercom purchased KDFC in 2007, there was a firm commitment to growing its audience and revenue to preserve its status as a commercial radio station serving the Bay Area as it had done since 1948. Bill Luth, as program director, along with our crack sales team, did their best. But by 2010, David of Entercom, I won't use any full names, had grown impatient, awaiting better results. However, David, son of Entercom, actually son of Joe of Entercom, did not have free rein to make a change. Joe, the founder of Entercom, had previous experience in other markets with removing classical stations from the radio dial, and they resulted in less than desirable circumstances for Joe and David. In addition, Joe was a classical music lover. He was a huge supporter of the Philadelphia Symphony. He was a trained violinist. He owned his own Stradivarius and at the time had performed several times with the Philadelphia Symphony, maybe backstage, but I'm not sure. But he was a big classical supporter. So his instruction to Dave of Entercom was to preserve KDFC in some fashion for the Bay Area. In 2010, there were connections at the University of Southern California, as we saw in the video, owner of KUSC, who expressed interest in expanding their footprint into Northern California. A whole process developed for USC to acquire KUSF's signal and for Entercom to grant the intellectual property, including call letters, employees, and music library to KUSC. So as you can see, Entercom was very, very gracious and generous. Yeah. When Bill came to me in December of 2010 and relayed that he was hearing rumors about the future of KDFC, we both had no idea what the future might hold. But as you can see from today's celebration, KDFC remains a legendary station in the Bay. That is because of the creativity, innovativeness, and perseverance by Bill Luth and his entire team. I think it's also important that we acknowledge KUSC and the University of Southern California, Trojan family that some of us are here. Some full tuition, some are not, but that's okay. But they allowed Bill and his team to work their magic and make KDFC even better, not only for the Bay Area, but for California, Southern California as well. So I think most importantly is the people that have worked tirelessly. They're seated at this table and many other tables to make KDFC such a huge success. Bear with me, I'm not a creative guy, but there's this thing called artificial intelligence. And so I asked it to write a little poem for me. So let me give this a shot. When first the voice of KDFC sang in 1948, its notes did grace the bay. a beacon pure where golden echoes rang and lovers of classical music did sway. Yet lo, in 2007, fate did turn as Entercom from distant lands did seize, with David, son of Joe, charged to discern the ways to keep this gem upon the breeze. A round table of minds did gather to safeguard what was cherished, loved, and known. In the year of 2010, a plan then did appear to pass the torch, a new path brightly shone. KUSC from southern realms did take this legacy through toil and change upheld. Though waves of discontent, there was some, did storm and break, Bill Luth, with steady hand, the future held. Thus, KDFC returns reborn from fate's decree, still thrives in noble, non-commercial deeds. So congratulations to everybody at KDFC. And with that, I'd like to introduce the president of KDFC San Francisco, and I understand also vice president of marketing and sponsorships for KUSC LA and KDFC of the world, Bill Luth.
All right. Wow. I don't normally bring notes, but I'm going to today because there's so many to thank and comments to make, and I want to get you out of here. Thank you for coming, first of all, everyone from donors, listeners, colleagues, supporters in every way, family that came with me today. I'm so grateful for that. Can everyone who currently works for KDFC please stand so you can be acknowledged of the team that carries on today, if you haven't talked to them yet? There's quite a few of them that keep it going. The person who was helping me put, helping me put this together today, our marketing director, Mary, broke her hip on Monday night. So I want to thank Mary as well. She's doing well, thank goodness, but we were having a station event and she slipped in the bowling alley and couldn't make it. So that happens, but the show must go on, right, Hoyt? Even when you're swearing on the radio, you're not the only one on the team to swear on the radio. We had another blooper tape for Rick Malone that we left off for you because everybody had their moments. So what does it take to become a legend? Not just age, first of all, thank you. It is perseverance, but I thought of two things. And Jonathan, passion, one of your favorite words, and gratitude are a couple that come to mind for me after all these years. So I came here in '97 for KDFC after having worked with Ms. Nicolini back in the day, another radio station. And I was thinking about the passion. Think of the three guys who come from New Jersey in 1948, Davis, Florence, and Crocker, and say, let's put on an FM radio station on the hill in Sausalito. There were hardly any FM radio stations in America. There were hardly any TV stations in America at the time. The Golden Gate Bridge was only about 15 years old. So this was a time where you're like, really? You guys are crazy. But there was passion for classical music, and they kept classical almost the entire time. They had one little moment where they went kind of an easy listening format and went back. They were committed to classical. And so many people in this radio industry know classical is not usually the first format choice for making money, right? It's hardly exists even now in the nonprofit space. But this particular team that came on after all those people who were committed, including the great Ed Davis, by the way, I want to acknowledge Ed. Ed was one of those co-founders, the D in KDFC, who was a co-owner of the station. He ran the station until his death in, I think it was 1993, so like 45 years, he kept this going. And at the time, at the end there, it was automated, but it was still a very viable radio station. And then when Bonneville came in, and Chuck Tweedle, who you saw here, and Valerie Howard, who is here, said, hey, maybe we can do something more mainstream, and asked me if I'd come back and do classical. And I said, that's the only reason I would come back, because my own personal passion was about sharing classical music with more people. That's what I've always been about. It's just part of my soul. It's not that interesting to me if we're just going to be esoteric. So that fit and it worked, and the team that was working on it and continues to gets that and understands why can't everybody like classical music. In fact, most people do. They just think it's for somebody else if they admit it in public, some of them. But we don't believe that. Everybody here understands that classical music truly is for everyone. So thanks to Ed, thanks to Bill O'Connell, who was the last PD before I came on board. Bill went on for 25 years to be the PD in Cleveland, but he's sort of his own legend that isn't here today. Again, Bonneville, best place to ever work for many of us at the time that believed in a KDFC that could be the way it was and is. Intercom then that kept it going, as Dwight explained, then USC who took it over and basically saved it. But you know who really saved it were the listeners who became donors. Many in this room that were significant contributors at the beginning and through the time to make sure we put this radio station in the hands of people who love it. That is the unique proposition of a nonprofit radio station. That's why when they said, Bill, do you want to try this and see if we can make a go of this as a classical radio station that's going to be listener supported? And I pulled in the core team and said, are you ready to do this? And Diane Nicolini said, do I have to ask for money? And I said, you're going to love it, Diane, because that will be the love fest that you know what you're doing matters to people. They will voluntarily raise their hand to say, how can I help? And they did within days. Percy, others here, instantly said, we can help and we're going to keep it going. And it continues to this day in the hands of the community. And it doesn't have the threat of being flipped to roll over Beethoven. It'll stay Beethoven because of people who love it, which is, that's the best place it could have ever landed. So that's also the passion, the audience and the supporters and the staff and the donors. That is such an important part of what we've done. The arts partners, Matthew and others who have helped us, and Hank is here from the conservatory, they understand where KDFC plays a role as its own arts institution that spreads the joy to a much broader audience, a wider reach than any arts group could do in and of itself. And many markets that don't have a KDFC or a classical station, it's not good for the arts community. So to keep KDFC on the air for the sake of the arts in our society and our local community is meaningful, and that's part of the gratitude I have is for the people who take care of it and who love it. And again, of course, USC, who made this possible as a nonprofit, donors and supporters, my wife and kids. My Reiner's going, not us. Okay, they would like to come up and talk. Guys, no, kidding. But it was already mentioned about a couple of people that are really important to the history of the station who are no longer with us. And Deb's husband, Len Mattson, the legend for over 50 years, sold classical music. Yeah, a salesperson for classical music radio in the Bay Area. There's nobody like a Len Mattson who took care of me when I moved here in 1989, and I was like 27. I was the same age as my kids, which is bizarre. I went on the air with Diane. I was mornings, and she was middays on a different station. Len looked out for me. And he made sure I was taken care of in a way that I was able to turn it back to Len when we flipped to a nonprofit. Len was the only salesperson we had. He came over as the underwriting sponsorship person before John and Jen joined us. He was a gem as a human and as a classical music person who helped the station. We mentioned Val Robichaud, but there was just he was the marketing director back in those 2000s with all those creative things Jay talked about, and he was just a fun guy. The spirit of Val was part of how we could be normal as a classical radio station. We would talk about, we're not a classical station, we're a radio station that happens to play classical music. This should be for everybody. That was the distinction, and Val was at the heart and soul of how we expressed that. Val passed away this year. Many of us went to a celebration of life just a few days ago, and he had converted into a new career of being the owner of the Sonoma Sun newspaper, the free newspaper, and he became in Sonoma a legend in his own way. And we miss Val greatly. And then Ray White, who we brought on, and he was one of those conversions, as Hoyt was talking about. I love to find people like Hoyt and John and Ray who came from other formats, who really didn't know classical music that well, but liked it. enjoyed it, were curious about it, but they had a personality of how to share this music, of how to connect with you and how to connect with an audience around classical music in a way that felt welcoming. And the great Ray White was part of that. He was so much fun to raise money with on the radio. We would be in hysterics sometimes where he couldn't even talk. We were having so much fun on a classical radio station in a way that people wouldn't understand. But all of us at KDFC, we understand this was a fun place, is a fun place to work. It's not a serious place. It's intended to be there for everybody to enjoy. My dearest, oldest friend in the business, Diane Nicolini, the legend herself. She is the legend of KDFC and will be. And I just want to thank you for being an anchor for KDFC all these years and being one of my right-hand people through all this. So before I go down into Maudlinville, let's do a toast. Those of you who have a glass. Thank you. Boy, it's quiet in here. So let's turn on the party music. No, let's not do that yet. Number one, KDFC is a cause, right? It's not just a station. It's a cause. People get behind it. You root for KDFC. It's a community. It's people who together share a belief that this music matters in our lives, in our community, and in our society. That's something unique, and I think that's part of our success. It's a family. You're all part of this family, whether you work there or don't, whether you support it, whether you are just a fan, you're part of the radio community that appreciates that KDFC has been part of the fabric of this radio community. It's a family, and I'm grateful to be part of the family with you. And now, it's a legend. Cheers. Thank you for coming and for all who helped. And now let's mingle.
Thank you, Bill. Bill worked really hard on this program, so he made my job easy. I was able to call Bill and say, hey, can you do this for me? Thank you. Yeah, tables returned. Yeah, I got to be his boss for a change. No, seriously, I'm really glad that everybody came today. It's really great to see everybody, and it's really great to celebrate this remarkable radio station. I'm so glad at its success. It's been fun watching from the sidelines, and so thank you. If you would, when you go out today, your name tags, would you just leave them at the counter or at the desk where you pick them up? And remember that if you would like to join us here for our next event, it will be October 19th. We will be inducting the next class to the Radio Hall of Fame, the Bay Area Radio Hall of Fame. Those who win, those who will be inducted will be chosen the first couple of weeks of July after voting ends on June 30th. And then we will make that announcement at Radio Day by the Bay on July 20th at the museum. It's going to be a really great afternoon. We're going to be there. We're going to have radio plays, and there'll be live music, and you can tour the museum, and there will be food trucks. And what kind of food? We're going to have all kinds of food, right?
The food trucks are going to be tacos, rock and roll hamburgers, and Mr. Softy.
Did you hear that? Mr. Softy is making an appearance. Okay. I don't know what that means, but okay. Thank you, Len. All right, have a good time, everybody. Remember to drive home safely, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.